Everybody, welcome. I am here with my two favorite friends, minus Adam. Miss you, Adam. We'll catch you on the next ride. But still, my two pretty good friends. I got Kevin Little, I got Brendan Sonnone, and we are here to talk FSU's pre spring offensive inventory. We are going to go position by position, catalog what Florida State's got before spring ball, what we think the ultimate floors and the ceilings of these group could be. Are they going to be strengths? Are they going to be weaknesses? And just kind of our final thoughts, go player by player, and just give you everything you need to know about each offensive position group this week before spring ball. Brendan, how are you doing, my man?
Trey, I'm doing well. Thank you for letting me be a guest here this week. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You kind of just invited yourself. I didn't have a choice, and you're
True.
higher up on the food chain. So, yeah, absolutely, man. Not a
You
problem.
had to say yes. Yes,
I
I
did.
like it.
Voluntold, baby. Kevin, how are you doing with our mandatory friend here, Brendan?
Yeah, we're doing great. He's not quite as good looking as our normal friend, but well, we're happy to have you.
We're happy to have you, slightly better looking friend. Now, listen, something that is just insanely good looking is the state of Florida State's quarterback room, because we are talking quarterbacks today, guys. It seemed like only yesterday where we had our Knowles 24/7 court, where if we were going to be talking about if Jordan Travis was a top 25 quarterback in the nation, we got a lot of blowback because we ended up saying yes. We got a lot of blowback for saying that. Now we've got a guy who's 100% top 10, and a lot of outlets have him top 5. I've seen top 3. We're talking a legitimate Heisman contender that Florida State is bringing back. The sky is the limit for Florida State next year, in my opinion, and a lot of it's riding on how great Jordan Travis is. Brendan, what are your just initial thoughts of the quarterback position, Jordan Travis, and have we seen his ceiling yet at Florida State?
Uh, We would always think that he's getting close to the ceiling or that we know what he is, right? After the
Right.
2021 season, we had a decent idea, at least we thought we did, of okay, this is a guy who's limited as a passer but a dynamic runner. Well, then he took this huge step forward in 2022 to become a very good passer in addition to still being a dynamic runner and start to become a better leader and just
Mm-hmm.
manager of the offense. Like every single area, he got better. To your point earlier, Trey, like he was the number one quarterback in the country according to PFF in the Power Five. He was top 10 in the country in QBR by ESPN. He was top 10 in the country in expected points added per play. Like every metric you go down the line, and he was a legitimate top 10 quarterback. So you got to feel really good about what he's done. But remembering that there's still room to get better. Like he was not perfect. He had a few rough stretches in the middle of this season. Still can get a little cleaner, I think, on some progressions and getting the ball downfield consistently. But like I've learned to not put a ceiling on what Jordan Travis can do because he's kind of proven me wrong. Even as someone who's been positive in his favor for the last few years, he still has exceeded my expectations.
And it's true to clean up some minor things, and you add it with that magic that we saw, like at the end of the Florida game. Absolutely, and it feels like he didn't need to run as much as he had in years past because the passing game he was so lethal through it. But man, when you add that all together, that is, it could be one of the greats, man. It's already kind of looking towards that trajectory. He's like, it's always those top 3 quarterbacks that FSU fans always remember. Winston, Ward, Winky. I mean, there might be time he might get his way on Florida State's Mount Rushmore. Kevin, what do you think? What impressed you the most about JT's game last year, and what are you expecting from him in 2023? Because as I have two of the most prominent Jordan Travis hive, like I don't know who got seat 1 and who got seat 2, but you guys were at the front of the bandwagon.
Yeah, I think everybody can point to the passing game improving. I think that personally, I think the 2022 improvement in the passing game has as much to do with having Johnny Wilson around as it does anything else. What really impressed me about 2022 is something what you guys alluded to earlier was just kind of his command of the offense. So you saw a
Mm-hmm.
lot more pre-snap checks. He was making a lot more decisions in terms of pass protections. He was getting the team into the right play more often. And really, it's something that makes this offense just more efficient on a down to down basis when they're able to kind of have that coach at the line of scrimmage. And I think that that's something that's not going to necessarily show up on the highlight tape or even the stat page, but it's something that I think made the offense better this year.
And I 100% agree with that. He always had a really great natural talent at the during the play reads, like all the triple option stuff he had to do in like 20 and 2021. He always made the right read like during the play. That was more like a football instinct thing. I think you're right, Kevin. We noticed many times where we, especially in the run game, checked into advantageous plays. Rarely do you remember any sort of like head scratching decisions in the passing game. It was the perfect storm of a way better supporting cast. He was much better. And just confidence, like overall confidence. I mean, Brendan, you saw it at practice. So we try to keep it to the film. We try to talk the X's and O's on here, but the confidence had to be something that was actually tangible. I mean, it's a soft factor, but you could tell, man, totally different kid.
Body language means something, not everything, but that I do think that other people see it and sense it, whether they are identifying it or not consciously, like they are taking it in, they're absorbing it. And Jordan Travis carried himself differently throughout this past preseason. And hey, like the coaching staff believed in him. They made it his offense. He deserved it for how he finished off the 2021 season, and they handed the reins totally unabashedly like to him. Whereas the season before, he had Mackenzie Milton there, and I think some self-doubt was able to creep in at times early in the season. That didn't happen. So, yeah, he had confidence in himself. The coaching staff had confidence in him. To Kev's point, built the offense around him, and he mastered the offense. And then also another point, too, like Kev mentioned, having Johnny Wilson there helped out a ton. Having a better offensive line, a consistent, multi-talented running game helped out as well. It all kind of fed into this self-fulfilling prophecy of Jordan Travis, like good things happening and then building on themselves. So like, I mean, that was cool to see, man. It doesn't always happen that way, but it did happen. And now he has that confidence going into this offseason with not only knowing that he's the guy, but knowing that he can do it and do it at an extremely high level. So when we talk about like what's next for him, it's like, yeah, there's this sense of belief that you have to feel like is going to lead to more success for him in 2023.
Yeah, all of it together was like a positive feedback loop, just like compounding interest, and things continued to magnify, and it was a sexy AF Garnet positive feedback loop of offensive production, and I can't wait to see it next year. Kevin, what do you want to see Jordan Travis improve upon next year? Obviously, we're talking at the margins because he's a very, very effective college quarterback. Either a place in his game where there's still some improvement to be had, or maybe a way that Mike Norvell can use Jordan Travis, like some more things you want to see out of the play calling that utilizes Jordan's skill set a little bit more in 2023 than they did last year.
Yeah, I think having and we'll talk about this later in the week when we have tight end talk.
Good tease. Nice
later
tease.
on. But I kind of briefly want to talk about what makes him so dangerous as a passing threat and a running threat. So if you imagine the offense has, like, this is a pretty standard formation. There's 5 offensive linemen and a tight end. So you have 6 blockers for a standard rundown. And then you have Jordan Travis and a running back. So that's 2 runners and 6 blockers. That's 8 total people the defense has to account for.
Right.
Then you have three more receivers outside of that, and they only have 3 guys to match up with that. So that assures you man coverage. And last year, really, if you wanted to break man coverage, you had to go to Johnny Wilson. He was your man beater. He was the guy that when the defense started cheating up, trying to take away Trey Benson or Jordan Travis, you had to hit this guy. But now you can have a Jaheim Bell who has a man coverage on a safety who also has to play in the run.
Mismatch.
And you have a pretty big mismatch. And this is why these like hybrid tight end role people are becoming so integral to the spread offense, because now the defense has to have a guy that can both come in on the run fits and tackle Jordan Travis in space, cover Jaheim Bell in space, and also take on a tackle who, might release downfield to block them, So
yeah, I think I'm with you, man. It puts you in a bind. It scared Kevin Steele. He just said, I got to quit. I got to go to Bama. I can't defend these guys again. They're going to run counter 50 more times.
Yeah, it's a dangerous mix. And I think with the amount of tools that you surround Jordan Travis with, you're only going to see his numbers and his output, and really the offense's output improve.
I think so as well. I think the only thing that it was a way bigger question mark coming into last year, right, and it's the health of Jordan Travis. That's the thing that's really going to derail him. We know what Jordan is. We don't even know what his final form could be as a college quarterback. Like Brendan said, he continues to just improve. And like Kevin mentioned, with even just basic formations now, you're putting defenses in a massive bind. Brendan, do you feel more confident in Jordan Travis's health after last year, as he could show you that he could get through a season relatively healthy? He could be productive without being a major running back. Are you confident in that another healthy year? Obviously, anything can happen in football, but if not, what do you think of the depth behind Jordan Travis at the position?
So real quick on the health, a few factors. Like number one for me is he proved he can get through a whole season relatively unscathed. So there's proof that like it happened at least once, so it exists, right? So that is not insignificant. Number two, and this is where we start getting into like why this happened, why he was able to still stay healthy. And Trey, you hinted at it. He was able to be successful as a quarterback without having to take a bunch of hits, and that doesn't mean just running as a designed runner. That means not having to do a bunch of crazy stuff as a scrambler in the pocket, moving around. That quick trigger, able to get rid of the ball quickly. They start doing like a lot of RPO stuff, the glance concepts to get the ball out of his hands quickly and with a nice clean pocket. So that helped him. That should only continue to help him stay clean and take away hits to his body. And then number three, I think he's kind of figured out a routine for himself to stay in good shape throughout the season. And by that, I don't mean just, lifting weights and stuff like that. Like for him, the ability to recover quickly, it doesn't come as easy to him as some other people because of some health things he has to deal with. And he's figured that out. I remember someone at the beginning of the season telling me like, oh, his arm strength, like the recovery time is better than it's ever been. And that wasn't just preseason smoke. Like that was a real, like,
You can
that was
see
a real
it.
thing.
Yeah, you could see it.
So all those things factor into like, yes, okay, so he's healthy now, knows how to manage his body, and he's figured out that secret formula of success. So knock on wood, bearing anything kind of like disastrous soft tissue type of deal, he seems like he's in a position to be healthy. As that pertains to the depth, that's going to be really interesting to monitor this spring. I'll defer to Kev to talk about the guy he's the president of the fan club of, Tate Rodemaker. But like, I think I want to see Tate Rodemaker, whether he is a legitimate like heir apparent to Jordan Travis, and whether that means he could be more consistent in practice this year. And I want to see how Brock Len pushes AJ Duffy. I wasn't super impressed with AJ Duffy as a true freshman. He's only a true freshman. He's allowed to get better.
Sure.
But those are the storylines I'm going to throw over to Kev here to talk about, because I think those are the things I'm going to watch this spring and beyond.
And we saw how effective Tate could be with an offense that was geared to him in that Louisville game. He really was. I mean, obviously Jordan Travis unquestioned QB1. Tate was a breath of fresh air in that game. That offense was stagnant for a large portion of that after that tough game against LSU. So we know Tate can do it, but Kev, are you worried if something happens to Jordan? Like, can Tate execute the entire Mike Norvell offense? We did see against Louisville that it was, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but they didn't do much.
Yeah, I think you've seen Mike Norvell have success with a varying degrees of quarterback mobility, and I think Tate definitely has a skill set that's different than Jordan Travis. Right, they're not the same quarterback.
Sure.
I think that by this point he's been in your system for what, 4 years, going on 4 years here. So
yeah, I think so.
I think he knows your system about as well as any quarterback Mike Norvell's probably ever had. So that part of the game, you like to see him kind of come out this spring and make quick reads and get the ball out of his hands fast and not make the one or two big Tate mistakes you see every time he takes the field. But I think he's got the tools to be successful, and I think he's someone that at least the staff feels comfortable with coming in as a backup plan. So, I mean, you don't see them rushing to fill a backup quarterback. It seems like they did what they could to try to keep him on campus because they value his experience in that role. They value that he brings something that's a little bit different, that's harder to game plan. So if Jordan Travis does go out, you now have to completely change what you're doing on defense, because maybe you don't have to bring that extra safety down into the box, but you have to be worried about the ball going 60, 65 yards in air, which you weren't necessarily worried about with Jordan Travis. So he brings a different flavor to to the offense, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that the offense is made to be a little bit flexible depending on the quarterback skill set. And I think that we saw that kind of in the Louisville game last year where they were able to kind of get him in a comfort zone and get him throwing the ball downfield.
I'm with you too, and it's like you said. There's not many teams most teams in the country. If your starting quarterback is out, you're in a bind. There's not many teams that have a 4-year backup guy that has seen multiple in-game experience. As far as the quarterback position goes for Florida State, we're taking inventory. It's about as good, arguably the best in the entire country. It's got to be. Like, there are many teams that are envious of Florida State's quarterback situation. And I think that's how we can end it. Do you guys agree with that? I mean, we're taking inventory. The inventory's good, man. You got a Heisman hopeful or Heisman candidate.
A legitimate Heisman candidate,
Yeah.
and the depth does seem pretty good. Quarterback rooms in college football in the modern era, like, you don't retain multiple guys with multiple years of experience that often anymore. So yeah, we can look around and say, oh, Tate Rodemaker doesn't have a ton of experience, but I would bet, I'd be willing to wager, Trey, that he has more experience than probably 75% of the number 2 quarterbacks at the Power 5 level. So stable, dynamic number 1, good backup quarterback, and a couple of promising underclassmen. Like, all right, you're working with something there. It's good stuff.
Something else that I want to bring up. I mean, this team is being built like San Francisco 49ers were being built up, where, you know, one guy goes down, maybe not the end of the world, right? You still have a very strong running game to lean back on. You still have a lot of weapons on the outside that make life easy for a quarterback. And I think that's the kind of program they want, right? They want They want something where you can plug and play a quarterback. Georgia's kind of got that mold. Alabama had that mold for a really long time where the team is stronger than just the quarterback. You're not relying on them to win all the ball games. Now, obviously, having a Heisman hopeful allows you to have a chance against the Georgias and Alabamas of the world. But if you're trying to run the tables in the ACC, I think they're trying to build up around the quarterback so the quarterback's life is easy.
I agree. And we are going to be talking about all that talent around the quarterback as we go through our offensive inventory series. Guys, thank you for sticking with us. We talked about the QBs, which are looking good. Stay tuned for our next video where we are going to be talking about FSU's plethora of dangerous running backs. For Kevin Little, for Brendan Sonnone, I am Trey Rowland. Thank you for sticking with us, and be on the lookout for all these videos on the Knowles 24/7 YouTube page for the rest of this week. Keep chopping.